as you guys know, I am a fan of old ships, steamships, big boats. I have a Titanic Lego set that sits above me, ever watching and ever present. I just find them fascinating. I really just like reading about them, researching them. I find it genuinely interesting. It's a weird fascination of mine, but hey, if it works, it works. So when I saw a video pop up in my feed, I got intrigued. It was from a friend that we've talked to. We've looked at some of his coverage before. The one and only Cyberboy. Okay, Cyberboy, he does a lot of discussions about like GTA 6. He did a lot of coverage of Mind's Eye, which is where we looked at him last. Did a lot of good coverage breaking down how insane a lot of that stuff with Mind's Eye was going to be. But he posted this, which was a video that showed clips of the Titanic. And it's just titled, "This game was going to be insane, but ... So I was like, what is this? And I have to show it to you. So at the outset, I'm going to share the link with all of you so you can go give him a view. And I insist that you go and subscribe to Cyberboy because he does really good stuff. And you'll see this is absolutely wild and will make you lose faith in humanity. The video is titled, "This game was going to be insane, but..." And I think you can all see where this is going if you look at some of these clips for all of 5 seconds, okay? But the fact that this post that's being discussed has 164,000 likes and no doubt millions upon millions of views on Instagram it's just about to make you lose faith in all of humanity, because this is one of the most transparently fake things I've ever seen once you start seeing some of these clips, okay? But people are locking in thinking that it's real, okay? So let's hear Cyberboy discuss a little bit of it. We're not going to watch like the entire video or anything, but I just want to give you a little taste.
So I was just scrolling social media the other day and I saw an announcement that there's a new Titanic game coming out on PlayStation. And of course, being a huge Titanic nerd and obviously a massive boat fan, subscribe so I can one day get a boat, thank you. And I was a bit conflicted by it because gamifying a tragedy is a bit weird. So I decided to dive a bit deeper to get a better understanding of what this game's really about. Now, I actually started doing some digging to find some more information because I only really had a couple of images just to flick through and they were cropped in a way that wasn't really that visible. Now, you're probably thinking right now, what's the but? Because there's going to be a but here somewhere. Well,
already, I'll point out some of the things that already stood out to me, okay? AI, yeah, through and through. Everything that they shared about this game is like hilariously fake, okay? So he'll describe some of this as well, but already, like, this is supposed to be the Titanic, a game made on the Titanic. And, you know, I can forgive some historical inaccuracies, like with the upper promenades, with the fact that the life, or the life rafts or life, what's the word I'm looking for? The little boats, whatever. The fact that they don't span the entirety, okay, like I can forgive it. These weird lines on the hull, I don't know what that's supposed to be. Is it lifeboats? That doesn't sound right. It sounds weird. Is it lifeboats? In my brain, it sounds weird. I don't know, whatever. The fact those don't span the whole thing, whatever. The fact smoke's coming out of all 4 of the stacks, even though one of them was a dummy, I can forgive it. It's a video game. What's weird though is for this to be a video game about the Titanic, and it doesn't say Titanic. It says what? Like, if it was a game about the Titanic, you'd think they would make the Titanic label on the ship in the right place, and then also it would be actual human letters. So already this is kind of weird. Next little snippet. Look at this. Okay, here, there's a door handle on the wall for some reason. The handles don't match from door to door. That's weird. Okay. Some of the other things, like these lights are starting to blend in together. So this door has this like candle light next to it. None of the others have it. They all have these lamps. So already there's weird inconsistencies, which you see with AI stuff all the time. With this, similarly, there's all sorts of, like, it looks good in broad strokes, but if you start to look a little bit closer, it like stops making sense. Where this, I think, is supposed to be a door, but it also doesn't have a clear handle or anything. The like things that are supposed to be symmetrical aren't symmetrical. And even just practically, like, why is the bed right up against the cabinet? Like, how are you supposed to get through? And where does this door go? There's weird things like that, but this one is more believable. I'll give him that. Pans forward. This poor man has high heels on and doesn't have arms. Very few of the characters actually have arms, strangely enough. This pose, like you see also this person's walking and they're moving really, really strangely. It's also a really weirdly framed image. The more you look at it, the more closely you look at it, the weirder it starts to look. It gets weirder and weirder and weirder. It's also like weird things like, is this supposed to be a piano? What is this object? Is that supposed to be a shadow? It looks like it was starting to be rendered as a piano and then the AI like kind of lost track of it. And so it just kind of melded into the background. It's really, really weird. Their hands are always the biggest giveaway because the hands aren't realistically moving. There's some weird pipe coming out of nowhere into the ceiling. None of this is level. It's all warped. Like the closer you look at all of this, the weirder it starts to look. And even if it's not historically accurate, that's one thing, but across the board, it just doesn't look right. Like they're standing on basically glass as well. Why is it so shiny? You know, like what is, yeah, the violin's going into his body. Exactly. So let's hear him describe some more of the stuff that he noticed too.
Probably thinking right now, what's the but? Because there's going to be a but here somewhere. Well, this is a complete and utter scam. The game does not exist. Now, where have I said this before? Well, let's just take a look at the images. Well, firstly, what does that say? Because that certainly doesn't say Titanic on it. The placement and the amount of decks is completely wrong.
It's also, this is a common thing with AI. Like it loses track once you get to like fine lines. What the hell is even that? Like it just gives up. It's like, sure, that's a wire and that's a cable and these connect here. Like it looks like it's been raised from the bottom of the sea already. Like it doesn't look right at all. Also, why are there mountains? Where is this sailing?
We can see the two middle funnels smoking. We can see the ship.
Yeah, it's missing a funnel as well. Where did the other funnel go? What are we doing? There's supposed to be 4. One of them was actually a dummy, but there's supposed to be 4 funnels. This only has 3.
Anchor in an ice field, which didn't happen. Now moving to the next photo, we've got some really extravagant balustrade with some guy with some really warped hands. And we've also got a part of the Titanic that doesn't exist. Then we've got these really weird stairs. I think you can see where this is going. Then in this shot, we've got a handrail from a modern day cruise ship. The Titanic handrails look nothing like this. And we also have these big kind of ropes going over the side of the ship. And this is not what the promenade deck actually looked like. Then in this shot, we've got some ominous glow coming from here. Yep. Then in this shot, we've got part of the handrails missing. The handrails aren't uniform. The floorboards are all weird and warped. Then in this shot, they've decided to put one of the lights in the middle of some wall art. Also, this is absolutely nothing what the interior of Titanic actually looked like. Now we've got this image, which is supposed to be, I believe, the Grand Staircase. Well, here's a picture of the Grand Staircase on the Olympic, which was pretty much identical to the one in Titanic. They look nothing like each other. Then we've got this shot with some AI warpings happening on the handrail. And then we've got this shot, which looks like a boat that's probably from like the 1500s. This isn't Titanic. And then let's just very quickly move on to the trailer. And don't worry, guys, we will get to the point very shortly. Bear with me. So in the trailer, we've got this shot here. Once again, the ground
No arms.
look nothing like this at all. And you can also see the weird camera warping where they've tried to add like additional effects around the edge of it to make it somewhat more convincing. Like the viewing angle of it, it's not real at all. Then in this shot here, we've got all 4 funnels chuffing out loads of steam. The 4th funnel on the Titanic was actually fake. It wasn't operational. So yeah, that's entirely wrong. This is not.
It was actually, I think it was used for like exhaust from the kitchens. So all of the like, you know, whatever hoods above the stoves and stuff, all of that would exhaust out that 4th funnel, but it would never look like that. I mean, you would never see billowing smoke out of all 4. It would be, you know, 3 and then the 1 would appear clear even though stuff was exhausting.
This is not.
It's like ventilation, things like that.
Think like what the cabins actually look like at all. This is actually more inspired by what a modern day cruise ship interior looks like, just from the layout, obviously not the furnishings. Then on this deck here, now someone on Instagram actually pointed this out very correctly. They've actually merged the front of the Titanic with the rear of the Titanic here. So
yeah, you can see this is supposed to be like at the front, like that's the captain's deck up there where the wheel would have been like right up in there. And that's at the front of the ship. You can actually see it in my Lego version of the Titanic right there. It was not at the back. Like there was not this big gap at the back where there's like a mirrored version of the front of the ship. You know, like
We're basically seeing Titanic in a half. I'm not sure how best to describe that. Then this is great. We have an orchestra playing here with something bizarre happening in the top right-hand corner. I wish I could explain what that was. And what looks to be speakers on the ceiling.
Oh, that's a good
and
catch,
a fire
yeah.
alarm system. That's
Oh, good.
incredible. I don't remember
good old 1912 fire alarms with LED lights and strobes.
the JBL speakers existing back then, but hey, I could be wrong. Now, in this shot, they've only got 3 of the funnel smoking, but the smoke is going into the direction of travel, which if the ship is moving at, like 18 knots, the smoke would be going backwards, not forwards. And then here we've got these people's hands merging into one hand together, unless the guy is removing his hand and passing it to the guy next to him. I'm not sure. And this is apparently what swimming looks like, so that's fun. And then apparently...
Hey, to be fair, that's how I swim. Dog paddle. It upsets my wife because my wife was on like swim team and she can actually she's a monster when it comes to swimming. She'll like go into like the pool with the lap lanes or whatever. And she will go take a breath and she'll just dive in and she'll swim the length of the pool and all the way back and then come up for a breath. I'm like, how dare you? And meanwhile, I'm over there in like a 6-foot section of the pool. Like I'm trying not to drown just in that. So yeah, I told her if we're ever on a boat and it starts sinking, she is saving me. I will not be doing any saving. I'm not that guy. Not a strong swimmer. I only dog paddle.
When the lifeboats were lowered into the water on this version of Titanic,
I can swim, just not well, to be clear. Yeah, to be clear. Very, very clear.
they go down a ramp and slide into the water.
What the hell?
Now, in this shot here, it looks like the Titanic is actually going down stern first, which isn't what happened. Look, you get the idea. You get the idea of what I'm getting at here. This is all just generated with AI. And the problem here is that Sony have allowed this on the PlayStation Store. People are wishlisting this.
Wait, what? Okay, I didn't know this. I got like a couple minutes in. I was like, okay, that's good. That's good. I want to talk about this on stream. I didn't know this is on the PlayStation Store.
It's become a very wish-listed game, even though the game doesn't exist, won't exist, and can't exist. The only really good Titanic kind of simulator, in terms of ones that you can really explore the Titanic in historical accuracy,
Sony, come on,
is the project by Titanic Honor and Glory.
Yes. Titanic Honor and Glory. This is what I want to talk about, okay? Because I have done an interview with James Penka, who is like one of the head people working on this project. So I want to talk about this. Again, you should watch the entirety of his video. He goes into a lot of detail about his experience with Titanic Honor and Glory, it seems, if we pan through it. So you should watch the full video. Again, go give Cyberboy a sub because I'm so glad he found this. PlayStation needs to get on that because allowing AI slop games to be listed is unbelievable. But I guess that's just where we are. But this thing that he's addressing, Titanic Honor and Glory, okay? What the project is. Basically, it's been in the works since like 2012, but it is a group of guys that are very passionate about the Titanic story and about Titanic just as a piece of history. And so they have, for over a decade, been painstakingly recreating the entirety of the ship based on historical images, based on the actual blueprints of the ship. They've been going through crazy levels of attention to detail to recreate everything from how the bells looked to the placement of each and every single cable to the furniture on the deck and the carpet patterns, the type of leather on the chairs is all carefully considered, the movement of the engines, everything. And then they're putting it into a project. Now it's been converted into Unreal. And so all of this is completely accurate to how it would have appeared on the maiden voyage, all of it, even down to the fabric used on the chairs, all of it. And you can actually download it yourself. Okay, how do you do that? Well, on their website, which titanichg.com is how you can find it. This is the website. You can just go to downloads. And when you go to downloads, you can see they have all of the downloads that they've done over the years posted here, but they have demo 401. And demo 401, they have the description of requirements there, and you can download it directly and play it directly and walk around the ship. The whole ship is not done. It's about 50% of the ship is explorable, but you can go down into the boilers. You can walk on the promenade. You can walk on the deck. You can go around the grand staircase. As you can see here, all of this is available. So you can get a feel for the ship yourself and actually explore it yourself. It's really, really interesting. But when I did an interview with one of the developers on this, James Panka, he's actually an actor who got involved with the project initially when it was being set up as a more narrative game, because their initial goal was to get in there and create a game similar to what's being pitched with this fake game, where they wanted you to be able to get on the ship in Belfast, kind of explore the ship, walk around, maybe there'd be some basic questing, but their goal was to eventually have it so you go through the entirety of the sinking. They wanted to have all of the NPCs fully simulated, so if there is a character from the actual story, from the actual event, you could actually follow them, and throughout the journey, they would have actually like tracked through witness statements, through their personal journals or whatever else, their movements through the ship. If it said this guy was in the smoking lounge at this time on this day, you could go there at that time in the game on that day and find that character there. Things like that. Like, they wanted to have it basically be a simulated recreation of the entire event, which is pretty freaking cool. That's pretty cool. Over time, however, it kind of shifted and changed, and they had some genuinely like very good points on how to do that, which is they bring up some really good points. So I'll lead this in with just a snippet from the interview we did 2 years ago, March of 2023, where we talked about it briefly, and he'll give a little description, I believe, in this first clip of kind of his role within it. Yeah. And his name again is James Panka, and he's been involved in it for a few years at this point, but he was writing some of the script for when it was going to still be a narrative thing. And this is him talking a little bit about some of the difficulties with like the historical recreation of it. It's important to establish those expectations, because over the past decade, and you deal with this day in, day out, it's like people have heard what the original vision was, and then people hear like rumors and twistings of that, and they're like, oh, it's actually gonna be like, a 50-hour campaign. Like, people start to get insane ideas of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's just important to be very clear, like, no, this is what we're doing. It's built around the fandom, and then also being true to the source material and respectful of the people that lost their lives.
Right, that's a big part of it, because a struggle I had when I first joined the project, and I was writing a lot of the script for that story mode. I had written as far up to boarding Titanic, so there was this long epilogue that took place in London and Southampton, and then you boarded Titanic, and that's where I stopped, because that's where things would get really interesting. And I was just looking ahead to the sinking, and I'm thinking, how are we gonna sink the ship with 2,200 NPCs? The whole point is, like, you could pick Thomas Andrews, the ship's designer, and just follow him around and see what he did. And our plan was to base his movements off of where he was seen, and there's no doubt this would help historically with research and all that. But, like, do we just show people drowning? Mm-hmm. Do we show people freezing to death? Do we have children on board? Because there were children, and a lot of them died. It's not a positive thing. So our focus has definitely been not that. And to focus on the ship and the stories, absolutely. There's tragic stories, but in a lot of ways, reading them or hearing them spoken by the survivors themselves is plenty in terms of how close you actually want to get to the deaths of 1,500 people.
Yeah. Right. And that's, I can only imagine how difficult it is, because like, if you want to recreate the ship to allow people to explore it and appreciate it for its historical value, and because people are just interested in it, that's one thing. But when you're like, we want to recreate the sinking, okay, and we want to turn it into a video game, okay, that's also like, that's a little trickier, that's harder to do. And how do you do that respectfully? Because when it's like, if it was an 8-bit game, I think people can kind of disconnect enough and it's whatever. But when it is a photorealistic recreation down to like the inch of the Titanic, it's like their version of the Titanic has been used in all sorts of documentaries. They've been used in in like when the Titan sub went down and all of these different outlets wanted to use footage of the Titanic to kind of talk about the Titan sub and everything. They used all sorts of clips from their project because it's such an accurate recreation of the ship. And it's still, by the way, it's still in the works. Like these posts are just from a few days ago where they're going through and they're making sure that the beams within the actual superstructure of the ship are accurate to the blueprints and to the plans. They're making sure like the bolts and everything and the engravings on each of these objects are properly set. They want to make sure that the actual, whatever you call this, like the brackets for some of the shelves are accurate to the pictures that they have from when the ship was built or the sister ships were built. Like it's absolutely crazy the level of detail they're going to. It's outrageous. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. Like these are the things they're working with to recreate it. It's crazy. Point is, they're still working on it actively. And if you want to support them, you can do that through their Patreon because they're still actively working on it, you know, and they're making progress. It's just, as you can imagine, a huge undertaking to recreate a massive ship with scattered historical records and things. But when you're doing that, it kind of becomes too real, and then recreating the actual tragedy in like animated form and then gamifying it like in terms of gameplay, it gets really tricky. It gets really tricky. So it's very confusing and difficult to juggle the very real historical aspect of the sinking while also giving people the chance to like explore the ship in a quote unquote fun way. So instead they've shifted away and they're just recreating the ship, and their goal is to provide it to people for historical appreciation's sake, for preservation's sake, and let people actually see it and explore it. But they're not going to try to gamify it. They're not going to do like, you know, get to the lifeboat before it's too late. You have a 2-minute countdown while you race through the stairwells. Like they're not doing that. They're going to instead just focus on recreating it for the sake of the retelling the story and letting the story live on. But it's very, very fascinating. And if you want an actual Titanic, something to sink your teeth into, this is the project to support and to check out. It is fascinating and they've done a phenomenal job. And I can't wait for them to continue making more progress. Don't bother wishlisting the PlayStation game. It is not real. It is AI slop. So hate to be the bearer of bad news, but again, shout out Cyberboy for doing the great video finding this made up game. I'm thoroughly entertained that it's a thing. I had no idea, and I didn't know before we started talking about this that it was also like on the PlayStation Store. That's crazy. But anyway. He took my thing.